Yes, people, what we saying? This is an Instagram live, but I'm just going to chat some shit. I haven't actually premeditated this at all. I do have a lot of updates that I need to give, and they will be coming ASAP. But yeah, I'm just going to chat some shit on a whim, how I normally do. What we saying, Michael, bruv? What's popping? I haven't got a particular agenda, but I do definitely want to give updates. Like, I've got a lot of videos in mind. Like, mainly, basically, like, it's been really long now since I've done psychedelics, like, the longest ever. So, like, get this, like, the first time I had, like, a round of psychedelics, like, when I was, like, 16, I'd done loads of mushrooms for a few months. And then I ran out of mushrooms, and I come out the other end of it. And at the end of it, I was like, damn, that was a mental journey and a half. But it was easy to see how, like, I'd done loads of mushrooms, I went on this, like, crazy mental journey, and then when I ran out, the mental journey, like, concluded. But then when I started them up, like, about a year later, I had, like, a year break, and then I was doing them non-stop until, like, about 8 months ago. I probably haven't done them for about 8 or 7 months now. And I'm only just got to the point where I'm like, basically, I didn't know that I was inside that mental journey still, kind of, where, like, I feel like it's concluded. Well, like, it's literally took, like, 7 months for me to come down. That's how I feel. So I only just feel now, like, now that, because basically I was doing mushrooms full blast. When I say I had about a year break after the first round, I then done them, like, perpetually for, like, 2 years, non-stop. And so basically I didn't have any contrast of, so I didn't know that I was in it, basically, like, whatever it is. I don't know, it's such a fucking mindfuck, but yeah, I mean, I'll make more updates, like, ASAP. It's kind of difficult to stay coherent because I'm walking the dog, but that's one of the main updates, is I feel like I know, it's like I've got my coherence back, where, like, because, like, all of my content, I, like, destroyed my audience because I basically just had, like, schizophrenia. not literally, because it is just a label, and obviously I never got diagnosed, and ultimately it's very hard to define, and obviously, like, because once upon a time I made a YouTube channel called Spiritual Psychosis, and, like, Traumatic says, he's like, I've got psychosis, I'm on some schizophrenic and psycho shit. Like, I obviously know, like, you know, like, shamans are somewhat like psychosis or schizophrenic, but there's a quote that you might be familiar with, Michael, is, like, the shaman swims in the same waters that the schizophrenic drowns. And I was drowning, and that's what the pain was, like, teaching me, or, like, because I had a lot of mental suffering while I was going through all this shit. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that I did definitely have some, like, well, I'm gonna make some updates, because I like, it's, now that I've come down a bit, it's put a lot of stuff into perspective. Like, it's a good thing that I haven't done any psychedelics, in a way. I'm not an NPC again. I'll never go back to being an NPC. That's not on the table at all. And that was kind of the goal with abusing them so much, as I said to you in the chat, is, like, I was doing loads of psychedelics to make sure that I'd never come back into being a fucking NPC robot, like most of this culture is, or most of this society. Yeah, it was just too much. I was just doing way too much, and it's like, it took for me, I've got into, like, a financial situation where I just couldn't afford it for a long time, and that was a blessing in disguise, in a way, because it's put the money into perspective for me in general. And, like, back in the day, yeah, I was literally spending, like, all of the money I had on shrooms full blast, like, whenever I could, because there was nothing more valuable to me than, like, every time I took a big dose of mushrooms, I'd just download, like, a vision from the fucking astral realms that would just completely, like, blow my mind. And if you've ever had clashes with that, you know, like, I don't know, I just fell in love with it because in this culture, in this world where everything's so fake, it's so hard to get to truth in your day-to-day life. Like, normal, mundane sobriety tends to be in a fairly low vibration, but these psychedelic peaks I was getting were like enlightenment. Like, you could just eat enlightenment. And every time I would take a big dose of shrooms, I would like realize that before I took the dose I was ignorant, but after the dose kicked in and I would like meditate into the fucking astral realms or whatever you want to call it, like, it would open the doors of perception, so to speak, where like I was so much more awake having after took the dose. So that's why I like fell in love with taking psychedelics so much, because I was like basically my normal state became drunk, and the psychedelic became like hyper sober in a sense, where like I was more awake on psychedelics than I was when I was sober. So I kept taking them on purpose because so I could just cut to truth. But yeah, sorry if I'm struggling to, partly it's because I'm walking this fucking dog. But yeah, I mean, that's all. I just reflecting on my old content. Yeah, the psychedelics just confused the fuck out of me, because what they'll do is they'll just bend like how your thoughts are always like creating reality, and psychedelics will like throw a curveball into how your thoughts construct reality, and they basically make you like dream while you're awake, and anything is possible in that realm. And I got extremely ungrounded, as I'm sure you guys was very obvious, but it's such a mindfuck, man, opening Pandora's box like that with the psychedelics. Sorry. But yeah, ultimately, that was my goal, was to like go off the deep end so much that I would never come back into NPC world and be asleep, and I did achieve that, for sure. But yeah, it's just like I can sit down a bit now, and I don't know how long I'm going to be on here. How's it going, love from the galaxy? One sec. Yeah, I might go in a minute anyway, because I wasn't planning on being on here for long. It was just while I was walking the dog. But I'm just saying, I just think with time, like, I'm just growing naturally, as you'd expect, because I'm still young, so I'm learning a lot. There's still hope for OXSN not to flop. But yeah, I think if you abuse psychedelics, really, especially something like magic mushrooms, it depends what psychedelic you're taking. It won't inherently make you lose the plot, and I'd never say that I did, but I didn't. And that's the tricky thing. Same with Conor Murphy. Like, I relate to what happened to Conor Murphy a lot. And I was like following him, watching his videos while tripping, for example. And Conor Murphy wasn't wrong, kind of. It's just like, even though like reality is groundless, but you have to like find a ground to anchor yourself. Because if you don't, then yeah, you can just spiral off, and yeah, it's tricky. But yeah, that's it. I just completely lost the ground of reality, and just like went purely metaphysical, kind of. It was just going in and out of fucking. It's hard to explain. I'm gonna make more in-depth videos about it anyway. But yeah, I'm not going back to NPC world. It's just that like. You do have to be kind of careful to, like, if you're gonna like abuse psychedelics in a way, even though like Mr. Nature would say that's bullshit, man, that's fear. But Leo Gura says like, it's like, it's not fear, it's caution, kind of like, it's like he said something that made me laugh, like, would you saw the brake off of your car, and because you don't fear crashing. That's fear, man. What the fuck is that? Love from the Galaxies. I'm travelling around a bit, saying yes to life opportunities and making some money. That's good. I'm preparing for a strong trip soon, around 10 grams. Sacred fungus. Good luck. It's been a long time since I've tripped now, yeah, like 8 months. That's what I was talking about originally when I started this video. And what I want to do, I'm not going to take psychedelics for a long time, still, because I'm not in a good position to take them financially and other reasons. I just got other things I need to focus on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a lot of talks, as I feel like it's been a lot of time now. I've definitely grown and matured a lot since I've made any proper serious talks, and basically like I was unable to make any like coherent talks in a way because my mind was so like ungrounded. I became extremely sporadic, and I didn't used to really be like that, but it's like the psychedelics like just unhinged me in this way where like I really struggled to stay on topic, and I don't really feel like that's the case anymore. And basically, yeah, my level of coherence in my video reflects my level of kind of mental health in a way, where some videos, I done like a mental health talk like a year and a half ago, and I literally just like, it's almost like I'm just slipping in and out of consciousness while I'm talking, where like I keep going like silent and that, and I don't even know what I'm talking about. Hello, Katie. You seem more grounded now. Yeah, I am likely. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Katie, if you just joined, is that, yeah, it's been like 8 months since I've took a psychedelic, and I've just had like, especially in the past week or so, like I've definitely it's just, I've just become grounded, like, because when I was abusing, yeah, I'm doing good. Cheers. But yeah, like when I was abusing psychedelics, obviously, it just makes you like dream while you're awake, kind of. And I was fucking seeing fucking crazy visions and shit, and like, I don't know, they just completely throw you off course. I can't fucking speak when people are near, sorry. It's stupid. I like lock up. because 2 secs. But yeah, no, I'm good. But I was just making an update. So yeah, sorry, I just had a fucking bit of a pause. But it's because my mum's like around the corner. I can't talk about fucking astral travel with a materialist next to me, because especially if it's when it's my mum. But yeah, that's it. It's just like I haven't took psychedelics for a long time, and yeah, I just realized, like, I don't know, it's just like I've just changed recently, on like a fundamental level, where I don't know, I don't have the same discernment as I did. Like, it's different now, I feel like, in terms of like, I was listening to some of my old podcasts and stuff, and like, yeah, it's just like, it's like it wasn't even me for a while. It was, and again, I'm not going back to NPC, and that was the goal with abusing them loads, is to make sure I don't return to the NPC paradigm, kind of. But yeah, it just, especially I think with magic mushrooms potentially, I think, because they can be a lot more twisted than something like maybe 5-MeO DMT. But yeah, I think it just like confused me, where like I was barely stable like with my survival foundation, and I was just taking loads of shrooms all the time, and like, yeah, one trip you're having a fucking vision about fucking star seeds and shit, and fucking gods coming out of the sky, and reptilians. And the next trip, you've just like gone to the center of the universe and you've just reached enlightenment and you're just in the timeless center and shit. And then you just come back into your normal life like the next day before you know it. And I kept doing that loads while I had barely a stable survival foundation, and I was rather poor financially as well. And it just like I didn't really know what I was doing exactly. I was ignorant because I was young, and because a way that I can kind of know this is because I remember taking some trips and I'd just get on the bus and go to town, or like I was taking very large doses all the time, and often I would take them just in silent darkness, but I would also potentially take them a while ago, and that's kind of hit me in the pocket financially. And so now money, to me, I have a different perspective on money, because before I was just blowing money because I was getting paid like very good, like the most high paid job I've ever had. So I was just buying loads of shrooms, loads of weed all the time, and being very flippant and taking it for granted. But it's put my gratitude into perspective once I've had the money taken away from me, because I lost the job, and now I'm on a lower paying job and only working part-time, and I've really had a drastic shift in my finances. Why do I say that? See, that's the hiccup of when I don't know what I'm saying, when I talk sporadically and I forget what I'm on about. That is what I need to get rid of, because the more of that is in my content, the more that is a red flag that I'm not doing well in the mind, kind of. It depends, like, because, like, my most unhinged, like, times in my life, I am the most, like, incoherent. I know kind of why I brought that up. Like, yeah, like, I'd take loads of trips and spend loads of money on loads of trips, but I wouldn't even treat the trips special. I would have them be way too flippant in terms of, now, because I haven't tripped for like a good 8 months, a trip to me is like when and if I do trip again, which I will, but I want to make more content before I fucking start going off the deep end again, because now that I haven't tripped for like 8 months, I want to do loads of talks as this kind of grounded version of me, and then if and when I go back to psychedelics, likely I'll fucking spiral away a bit again, but be more grounded. But yeah, I brung up the money situation because I was just spending and tripping very flippantly, and I didn't value my money as much as I do now that my money situation has got tougher. So I was just tripping like as much as I could wherever would work. Yeah, and like half the time I'd trip and I'd be on edge, like, when's my mum gonna come home? Is she gonna come home before I come down off the shrooms? Or what we saying, Ryan? Love from the Galaxy said, sacred molecules, then being a lot in Babylon can be overwhelming. If you was in some Spain or commune, different stuff. Yes, that's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up. That's what I feel like that is actually, like, I say this a lot, and I should have said it more in the past, that like spiraling off into like psychedelic psychosis is partly, in a way, not just the individual's fault, but also the culture, of course, because the way that Mr. Nature says it is to awaken and become sane, so to speak, even though it looks like the opposite, to become sane in an insane culture is very challenging. Awakening in an asleep culture is very challenging. And that's especially why it can be difficult, because like my parents didn't understand what was happening to me. But potentially, yeah, if I was in a more shamanic environment or in India or something, then potentially it would be different. Yeah, it's just like a lot of it, no doubt, like I think ultimately the victim mentality is kind of like absolutely it's not the case. Like I think we are like infinite beings in terms of like we do decide, because we're kind of in charge of how we interpret the energy. But yeah, like there's no doubt, like most people are in denial in a way about awakening and truth because it's too hard to stomach. And really this culture is just living in thick denial and delusion and falsehood and deception. And to awaken to that while you're in it and going in and out of these like deep psychedelic states and like reading scriptures and truth seeking, I almost wish, a part of me, not really, but like I almost wish I'd never done it, because it's too hard to stomach the truth. And that's why most people don't, kind of. I know I had to do it, and I'm glad I did, but it's much bigger than you anticipate. It's techie in the dunya. What are you on about? I don't want to be where I am. It's partly why I'm scatting. I'm just fucking like stood in the street talking this shit. And someone's just gonna walk past. I can't talk when people are around me, especially NPCs, about this sort of stuff for some reason. I can only talk really when I'm alone. I don't know. But yeah, I was just taking a lot of psychedelics all of the time. I wasn't respecting the power of them. And that's the main thing. People tell you often, respect the psychedelic, like, and like I couldn't even like understand exactly. I had to kind of learn the hard way, where you must respect the psychedelics, because abusing them in a flippant and irresponsible way, they will fuck you. Then there 100% absolutely can be deception within psychedelia, no doubt. They are very powerful tools, and ultimately it's what you bring to the psychedelic. You can't really demonize the substance inherently, it's how you use it. And ultimately you learn from your mistakes. But yeah, for example, it's things like you can have genuine insights on the psychedelic, you can have profound experiences, but then, and Leo Gura talks about this a lot, is that like when you come down from such a high state, potentially your ego can like rebuild and like weaponize or misinterpret the insights. So you can have genuine experiences and profound experiences regardless of if you believe them. Like you can just have a very profound experience, a very visually beautiful experience, or you can have genuine like insights about the nature of reality and or your own personal life, like psychological insights about past trauma, etc. But you have to be like very spacious and slow, is the best way I can describe it, is what I've learned. Is that like, if you're blasting down this rabbit hole, and when it starts to feel like an ideology, that's where you should back off in a way. Where like, finally I figured it out, everyone wake up! It is that, but also not exactly. You have to be slow and spacious with it. In terms of, yeah, you should likely have space in between the trips. It depends, that's not inherent, but if you feel that the psychedelic is uprooting your life drastically, potentially take some time off, because it's like psychedelics are like a personality transformer. And really, the most sensible way likely to do psychedelics, it depends, because I often say that most people have not gone nearly deep enough with psychedelics, and I know this. Most people have only barely scratched the surface. I really do mean that. I thought I went the deepest you can go. It goes infinitely deeper, trust me. Fuck this place, man. I can't fucking film anywhere, bro. There's just fucking shit everywhere. Just a grid of fucking public pathways. Payday Monsanto, bruv. Ultimately, it's all just a Hakuna Matata, and I've come to clock that recently. I gotta go soon as well. Yeah, there's no limit to psychedelics. They are the most powerful tool in terms of how you're perceiving energy, or not even through your eyes. Like, even that's kind of a mistake to say it like that. Like, I just mean how consciousness, how awareness is being aware of energy. If you want to transform how you interpret the energy that awareness is seeing, psychedelics will do that, and you can infinitely transform that in a way. You can infinitely, like, think about all the different perspectives that all the different humans have. It's almost like by taking psychedelics, various different substances, you can almost like take on any personality. Because it's like an infinite dream, and your thoughts are co-creating this place, and yeah, it's just tricky, bruv. Basically, if you abuse psychedelics, you will reinvent everything that you thought you knew. And there's no limit to that, basically. It's like they used to call psychedelics and magic mushrooms, they used to do studies, this was ages ago. I've heard that they almost used to define magic mushrooms as a psychosis simulator. Like, you can give someone magic mushrooms and it would imitate, like, it would basically give them schizophrenia until it wore off. Ultimately, they kind of threw that definition away, as it didn't do it justice. But that is almost correct in a way. But then the thing is, like, even the normal sober state is not inherently truth. Leo Gura talks about this a lot as well. I think, see Leo Gura's video, How Psychedelics Work. That's a very good video. And it dovetails with what I'm speaking about here. But it's, yeah, basically you have to just be, like, if you don't want to, like, spiral away and, like, explode into karmic reckoning, then have one foot on the ground. And so sorry if I just kind of missed a point. I feel like I did. But so say Ram Dass, he says very explicitly, he talks about what happened to me. He basically says, like, yeah, so Ram Dass calls it becoming nobody. He says it's easier to become nobody after having became somebody. And basically, like, he's talking about, like, enlightenment and this, like, consciousness, awareness work and observation. If you do that too early, before you build, like, a human identity in your adulthood, you can become, and likely will get, very ungrounded. And Ram Dass says this very explicitly. He says it gets very messy if you wake up too early, because you don't have a foot on the ground. Like, you haven't even, like, cultivated, or, like, who you are, or who you're going to be. So basically, like, if you're young and you don't even have anything, or you barely even have a ground or a career or who you think you are, like, because you're still so young, basically, like, if you pursue psychedelics slower in your adulthood with a career, you're going to be less likely to, like, spiral off like crazy if you already have, like, a foundation for your life, and if you already have a lot more years of experience. But if you're young and ignorant, and yeah, just ignorance kind of comes with youth often, yeah, potentially you just don't actually have like, you don't have a reference point to what was normal, because you're still young. Like, you never actually found your ground or your footing in life in general, because you're young. So you almost don't know what to refer to if you go off the deep end with the psychedelics, because you never had your foot on the ground because you were so young when it began. Like, I started doing this when I was 16. That's really quite young. That is young. So to do that when you're 16, compared to if you've, like, you know, spent 15 years cultivating a business and you have a child and a girlfriend, compared to just being like a lonesome teenage boy, it's going to be a bit different. I don't know, I'll make a deeper update on this soon. I didn't plan to speak so long, but I'm going to go now anyway. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry if I struggle to be a bit coherent. I'm definitely getting better. So yeah, I basically, like, killed my audience because I just wasn't, like, coherent enough to hold anyone's attention span. But it's because I was struggling for a long time, and, like, that was, like, the best I could do at the time, in a way. Like, people say, like, why don't I prepare my videos more, and that. A lot of it was because I was, like, half the time I was struggling really deeply with, like, depression and things. So I didn't have it in me, barely. Like, even though it's a bit of a paradox, like, vice versa, it's, like, creating it like a cycle. But, like, depression to me, like, especially if, like, you're on the verge of, like, suicide, kind of, you don't care. And it makes you, it gives you this kind of confidence where, like, nothing can hurt you as much as the depression. So that's partly why I'm so outlandish on my social media, because it makes you almost feel like you have nothing to lose, because you're just being tortured every second of your existence. Which I'm not now, all the time. But it taught me, and that depression and that pain was my system warning me that something was off. And I went through a lot of pain, emotional and psychological pain, and depression. I don't call it depression anymore. It's just pain, like, and it's valid. and you can learn from it, and you can transmute it. And I think I know. Pain Changed Me by Kashi Light. Listen to that song, Kashi Light, Pain Changed Me. But yeah, pain makes you grow, and yeah, that's it. I've just been hurting, like, psychologically for a long time, and emotionally, and that when it really digs deep, like this Leo Gura says something along the lines of, like, it's not facts and the intellect that changes you, it's sharp, deep emotional experience. That's what changes you, is deep pain, deep suffering, peaks of ecstasy, like, and so that's why depression can be a blessing, or depression is grace. Partly is because that deep hurt will change. You know, your body's intelligent. There's a reason for these things, in a way, and often it's trying to tell you something. Like, depression is like trying to notify your awareness that you need to fix something about your lifestyle. And that's another thing, my lifestyle and my routine and my habits were not good. So I shouldn't have focused so much on the psychedelics. I was just busy having fun, and I don't regret it, because I did literally break through into enlightenment multiple times. But yeah, I should have been focusing on my grounded personal development. We live on multiple different planes at the same time. That is basically the key, in a way. Basically, I didn't really understand, and Ram Dass has helped me with this. It's like, sometimes I was in, like, solipsism, no self, absolute, but there's also the relative plane, and there's the astral planes, and, like, we're living on multiple planes, like, simultaneously, and I didn't really know that they all existed at once. I was, like, jumping from channel to channel, like, not knowing what the fuck was happening. 1 minute I was, like, in the astral realms, fucking talking to angels. Next minute I'm fucking just a lonely bubble that's existed forever, and I'm the only being in the universe, and I am God, and that is oneness, and that is nothing, and timeless unity. And then 1 minute I'm just a human on Earth who hasn't got any money. I'm going in and out of duality, and I just didn't have, like, I was too immature to understand what was happening, and what I needed was a long time of just waking up, having a day, putting in a day's work, whether that's at my job or whether that's on some project, or waking up, eating food, doing some exercise, having some coffee, watching the intellectuals, listening to my people, contemplating, doing that for like a year and a half. You just change, especially when you're young. You just need to grow up. That's it. You're like, that's what I'm saying, kind of, is I think psychedelics can be dodgy in your youth, just because with youth comes ignorance, in a way. Remember when you was a kid, a child, likely you thought very foolish things. Most kids are obviously, they don't really understand the world exactly. They're kind of stupid, and in a way, not all of them inherently. They're not. I'm not saying the kids are all stupid, because most adults are pretty fucking stupid. But you know what I mean. So understand that, like, if you're 20 years old, you're still gonna have. You're not even like 25. Like, I'm still like fucking, like, my beard is still like emerging. Like, I used to have like a gap here. Yeah, like 2 years ago I had like a gap here, but now I don't. And like, just in general on my body, like, things like that are still evolving, where like hair is appearing in places where it didn't used to, and things. So like, that's just a sign that I'm still going through like puberty, so I'm still like transforming naturally. And if you do loads of psychedelics in the midst of that process, no wonder you're gonna get confused. Anyway, I don't know, I'm gonna go. That's enough of that. I'll do a more grounded, coherent video in the future, but yeah, basically I'm gonna do loads of talks on my channel and everything. before taking a psychedelic again. So that's a reason for me to hold off with the psychedelics for a minute. Is I want to do a lot of talks like I normally do, just on a whim for the most part. Communicate a lot of stuff, do a pretty decent overhaul as I feel more grounded. A name I was thinking is Back from the Deep End. And yeah, and when I solidify and talk a bit more from this state of being, having not done psychedelics for a good 8 months, most of my content I was doing like my channel, get this, since I started my channel, I was doing psychedelics every 2 weeks the entire time, basically. I'd have a month off for the maximum. And those experiences were way too radical. So doing that so much, and then I've only just had like 8 months off, and I've had a lot of pain while I've had the time off because I've been crashing back into reality, coming down. I was high for 2 years, and that is why my YouTube channel exists. So now that I haven't done mushrooms for so long, I almost feel like I don't even know who I am, because if you're on magic mushrooms for 2 years straight, think that's my brain chemistry. Now that stuff has finally slowly worked itself out of my system, I don't know who I was for the past 2 years, kind of, because I was the version of me that had psilocybin in my brain. I've heard that a mushroom trip can increase like brain activity for up to 3 weeks, I believe. And my family and my dad used to say that every time I tripped, he said that he noticed I was weird and different afterwards, for a while. And I could feel it myself, it takes about 2-3 weeks, I think. That's what I've heard as well. But yeah, it's like now I haven't done psychedelics for a long time. I want to talk and speak from... This is like a new version of me, kind of, that's never been on my channel. It depends. I'm still smoking weed and stuff, because that stuff is too good. But yeah, I'm going to try and pump out talks like I normally do. The only difference is I haven't done psychedelics loads, so yeah, when I solidify and do as many talks as I can, when I'm happy with what I've said and stuff, I'll trip again. What we saying, Tripper Snipper? How's it going, my G? But yeah, I was just saying, Tripper Snipper, that I haven't tripped for a good 8 months. And how are you doing? I'm doing good, bro. I feel just more grounded because I'm not astral traveling and then crashing down into duality. Yeah, I'm good. How are you, man? Yeah, I was just saying, at a family meal. Nice. But yeah, I think psychedelics is like infinite dreams. And that is Pandora's box into infinite dreams, and if there's no limit to what psychedelics can do. It depends what you bring to the psychedelic as well. It depends a lot on your routine, your age, but psychedelics is an infinite dream machine, and if you keep doing them loads and loads, you will just keep opening infinity more and more. And if you don't want to, not that it isn't valid, but basically try and hold on to something so that you don't completely lose yourself forever. You can temporarily, but what I mean is have a routine, have some rules, contemplate, have exercise, have like rules about your diet and think long term about your vision for this life. And that is what will keep you grounded. It's something to come back to. That after you blow up on the trip, of course you're likely going to come down, and then do your exercise routine, and then do what you normally do your yoga routine, do your whatever. Because if you don't, you need an anchor, you need to find an anchor. And I've been talking about this in general, and I feel like this is very relevant to you, Tripper Snipper, likely. It's not that the psychedelics aren't valid, it's just that they are valid. It just depends what we, the user, brings to the experience. And about the setting, being responsible. It's hard to learn what responsibility and maturity means with psychedelics. You almost have to make the errors. What is the error? It's that basically, really, it's your mind is constructing reality. You are at least a co-creator. Ultimately, you're the creator. And psychedelics will expand consciousness, but the devil works by sleight of hand, and we've all made a lot of mistakes in our past when we were children. I brought up this analogy earlier, is, of course, everyone in this chat who's listening right now, at one point, you was a child, weren't you? When you was a child, what was you on about, really? You know, when you was going to school and that, like, a lot of us were chatting a lot of shit and we're stupid, right? Kind of. There's still fragments of that going to be in us, especially if you're young. So ultimately, the way I see it is like the joke is on awareness itself, in terms of you, the perceiver, if you are at the end of this finger, or so you think, the joke is on you. Not just with psychedelics in general. It's like, joke's on you in terms of the cosmic giggle. In terms of, haha, fuck you, you've been put in this body. You are trying to figure it out. You, like, it's like, the reason I say that is, you're gonna make mistakes because, this place is just a trap. You're, like, it's fucking with you on purpose. Like, how can it just put you in a child's body? An ignorant child. And then you just have to learn and bump your head and make mistakes. And, like, and we're still in that. So, like, don't be, like, you shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes, is what I'm trying to say in a way, because it's rigged from the get-go to be to incarnate as a baby and grow into a child and go through this whole thing. Like, you are inevitably going to make mistakes, and that has been the process the whole time. So we can, like, almost unconsciously, like, fool ourselves into thinking that we know the crack, we know how it is, and we do in some facets, like, trust yourself and your intuition and stuff, but it's like, you'd kind of have to let go in a way. It's hard to communicate what I'm trying to communicate. I hope you're grasping it. It's very far out stuff. I'm better than most at communicating it in general, but I think ultimately I just try to trust the universe and God. Well, I don't know why I put God in brackets, but yeah, man, we are still young too. Yeah, we're young, so like, expect room. I just spoke about this a lot. Like, we're still developing, like, physically a lot. Like, so the mind likes to fool itself into feeling trapped. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so sorry if I kind of went a bit off topic, but it's a bit tricky to communicate. I'm just saying, yeah, so I haven't done psychedelics for 8 months now, and I was doing them every 2 weeks for like 2 years. So I didn't have contrast. I didn't even know that I was like in it, whatever it is. But it's just about like, reality is groundless, but it's easier to, like, psychedelics will prove and open up how groundless reality is, where the psychedelic will just like open consciousness up and pull the floor out from under your feet, and you will just fall into the void. And the void is now. The void is the present moment. How are we saying, Brandon? Good to see you. We're just talking about being grounded with psychedelics. But yeah, so like, the void is all around you, and that is the present moment. We're much better at constructing a ground, for the most part, when our awareness is more like finite and rigid. Normal awareness is rather rigid and linear, and rational and constructive and practical. But psychedelic awareness hyperactivates the brain and opens the doors of perception. Why did I just fuck up my plurals then? I just like swapped them around. That was weird. And they basically like will throw you into the void, and when awareness opens like that, it will show you how your thoughts are constructing narratives, and it will dismantle the normal linear constructing rational mind. And psychedelics, Leo Gura says that, I remember Leo Gura saying this explicitly, is that that's one of the key facets of psychedelics, is that sobriety is rather linear and rigid, and psychedelics is more of a flow. Consciousness becomes flow, but in sobriety it's rather rigid. But deep psychedelia is like it's like an ocean, an infinite ocean that's ever evolving. Someone commented, do you agree with psychedelics? That is a very loaded question. Yes. Overall, they are the best thing in the history of the world, but it depends how you use them. It depends what you bring to them. It's not the psychedelic itself. It's about who's using them, what your intention is, how conscious you are, whether you're breathing with it, whether you're following your thoughts. Because that's another thing, like, because this talk in general, I'm talking about how I became very ungrounded with psychedelics, which is possible, because you have to have a good foundation in order to embark on psychedelia without completely sinking into the abyss. And the good foundation is, in a way, taking it slow. Taking it slow is boring, but what I mean is to be decently aged and mature, and to understand that what you're dealing with is, psychedelics is literally like imagine every single human's individual psychology, like everyone you've ever met, every mental illness that's ever existed, every different paradigm, the scientific paradigm, the starseed paradigm, the fucking religious paradigm,
the solipsism paradigm. Psychedelics contain all of those. It's infinity. And if you don't have like grounded principles and you just abuse them when you're immature, like anything is possible. Absolutely anything. Psychedelics are infinity. Psychedelics can infinitely change your personality and change how your awareness feels about the energy that it is with. No need to fear them, then you are aware of God around and within. No need to fear them, then you are aware of... Well, it depends, because fear is caution. It depends. Like, you can spiral off and lose your ground, because reality is ultimately groundless, but at that point you're doing some next level yogi shit, and most people aren't exactly conscious with what they're doing. Like, if that's where you want to go, then you can do that, and that's fine in a way. But I feel like it's good to pledge to social responsibility. It's not good to just spiral into some solipsism and just like go crazy because no one else exists and you're alone in that. And they're kind of both true. It's kind of up to consciousness to decide, because your consciousness is the ultimate authority. See actualize.org, how authority works. Need to call after this, bro. I've been trying to get hold of you for a while. Yeah, can do. A lot of people try and call me, man. Sorry, it's just I struggle to... I appreciate it. I really do appreciate you keeping up with me. It's just there's so many names. I do remember you. We've spoke before quite a bit. I remember. It's just there's a lot of people who want to speak, and I sometimes I almost struggle to remember names, but I'm pretty confident I'm not sure if you're... it gets difficult. I definitely recognise you, obviously, but I recognise a lot of people at this point. I don't know if you've got your own podcast, if that's you, or if I'm thinking of someone else. I can't fucking remember. My phone, by the way, it did... I don't know if you just heard it vibrate. It says it's on 5%, so I'm going to have to end it anyway. I'm not just saying that because I don't want to call you. I'll plug it in, but my charger is shit. And sometimes, I don't know, it's weird. You have to, like, put it in at a certain angle. Otherwise, it takes, like, 10 hours to charge. I can't even remember what I was saying, man. But yeah, I'm going to make a better video about this in the future. Yeah, I'm just saying, basically, reality is a fucking infinite dream, and psychedelics fuck with the fabric of the dream. And that's all I can say in a way. So, and if you abuse them, especially depends on your survival situation, it can get very confusing, going in and out of different planes of awareness. Ultimately, what will save you is maturity. In terms of wisdom will save you. Where if you're ignorant and young and you don't really know what you're fucking with, that will be the main error. I can't really exactly communicate and just tell you something that will save you from fucking up with psychedelics. What will save you ultimately is a life or multiple lives worth of experience. So, like, wisdom, you don't get all of the wisdom that you need for your life in one lecture, do you? Like, there's nothing that any intellectual could speak to you in 2 hours that would save your ass for the rest of your life. You have to make mistakes. That is how you learn. You learn with deep emotional and sharp emotional experience. And that is ultimately how you learn. So there's nothing I can really tell you. You have to basically cultivate an intuition. And that is almost what this life is about growing wiser. And that is how you know how and what psychedelics are. You're not going to know exactly what psychedelics are if you've only just discovered them maybe 2 years ago. Even if you've done hundreds of trips. I've done fucking 150 odd trips. I don't know anymore. But ultimately, mistakes and pain is the greatest teacher. And you will know how to deal with psychedelics and what they are exactly more as you live longer. That's why elders are seen as wise. And that's it. Live more, learn more. That's not inherent. You have to be activated and awake, because you can get many old people who are stupid as fuck. You can get a lot of stupid NPCs. Most people are not awake. They're just in some unconscious trauma response or some shit. I don't know. But if you actually choose to wake the fuck up, if you can activate your third eye, so to speak, the learning will occur and you barely have a choice. But if you stay asleep, you can miss the whole thing. But yeah, I'm on 4%. Yeah, I'll call you. We'll see. I'm going to go and export this now before my phone dies. But yeah, I mean, I do got to wake up for work at like 7:30, so I don't know when I'm going to sleep. But yeah, I'll call you, man. But we'll see. Like, yeah, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you. I'm getting more coherent, is what I'd like to tell you guys. Is that my level of incoherence and scrambled speech, the more scrambled speech I have, that reflects my level of ungroundedness. And most of my content is rather incoherent and scrambly, and that's why all of my social media looks a mess, because I lost the fucking plot. Because I was abusing psychedelics every 2 weeks for 2 years, and I'm young. There's no such thing as losing the plot, and it gets very confusing. Basically, reality, consciousness is in the center of an infinite paradox, and jokes on you. You are consciousness, you are awareness, and jokes on you, because this whole thing is fucking with you, because you were born into a human as a baby and growing up as a kid, going and trying to figure out all this shit. Should I trust this person? Should I listen? It's like, jokes on you. This whole thing is one big fucking joke, and you have been put right in the center of exploding chaos. And don't expect to not make any mistakes, and don't fucking shame yourself when you do, because this fucking realm is full of fuckery, and you are in the center of it. So, good luck. You did this to yourself. I don't know. Have faith. And it's ultimately just way woo way. Why should you care? Who really gives a fuck? You know, did you even ask to incarnate? I don't know. It's just up and down, hide and seek, left and right, fast and slow, round and round. I don't fucking know. Just be grateful and give yourself space. If you're young, you will learn. And just trust your source. Trust where you come from. And don't fuck with fear too much. Don't worry more than you need to. Be cautious and just love. Love as much as you can. Honestly, that's probably the deepest teaching, is just try and learn to love everything that you're seeing. Just try and learn to almost like have compassion, and I don't know, you're doing yourself a favor, because you can live with love more if you just learn to love people and learn to love yourself. Then you can live in love more. I don't know. I'm gonna go now. I ain't got no charge. I have to go. But yeah, fuck knows. I appreciate you guys a lot. Getting more coherent, therefore my content will actually be watchable, because I'm less in psychosis, even though psychosis doesn't exist, because you are God and you are dreaming. Alright, I love you.